Hello, beautiful people. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Honest Am here, the creator of the writer and creator and writer of the Honesty Says newsletter, and I am here for another P-Vally review. Don't kill me, please. I know. I already know, because I'm shaming myself. Like, I had a whole week that I could have got this out, but y'all, I don't know, Cancer season. I'm like Lauryn Hill. My energies was not aligned. It's like, nah. But since I am late, I'm just going to go ahead and get right into it and try to just run on through this because I said I owe it to you. And I was like having a moment, like, maybe I don't need to do it. Maybe I don't have to do it. But it's like, yes, I do, because I said I would do it. So, angel number 35. Let's go ahead and get to it. So, you guys already know, if this was an official podcast, the guest that I would have on today will be Nicole Jefferson. She's a writer in the P-Vally writer's room. I noticed that this story and teleplay was written by her. So I would invite her on this week to, one, ask her, why was it so important to tell Big T's story at this time? And also I was seeing something where there was two things that I saw. I saw one that Katori knew that this was always going to be in episode 6. So I would want to know, why was that so important that this happened at this moment in time? And then the other thing that I would want to know is, did they know, like, did they know that this would be the day that Big T would do this? Did he know it from the moment he woke up, and why? Because I also saw a tweet saying that they knew that. So it's like, how did he know that? Why? And, like, you know, again, why are we telling this story at this time? Another question that I would want to ask, because agent number 135, it was mentioned that Katori had heard this story growing up and that she ended up using it for, you know, for this show. And so I would want to ask the writer, you know, are there any stories that she feel comfortable with sharing that ended up in the series up to this point? Like, of course, we don't want any spoilers, but I would want to know if there's any personal stories that she told that end up being storylines in P-Vally. The next person that I would have on is, of course, J.L. Founds, aka Little Murder. I would want to ask him how has he been dealing with the stuff with social media. Then I will ask him, you know, did Little Murder know that Big T was going to do this? Did he already know that this was a potential that this could happen? I really felt like there was several times in the episode where, you know, Big T was trying to get away from Little Murder, and then Little Murder was just not having it. And so it was like, was that a conscious thing or a self-conscious thing? And then the last thing that I would want to ask him, you know, why did he decide to stay in there and then to see that? I mean, of course, I feel like I know a reason why, but again, I want to know from the character perspective. And then the very last question I would ask him is, why did he go to Uncle Clifford's house at the end? Again, I have a reason why I think he did that, but I would love to hear it from the character perspective. So the plot of this episode was all about, what do you do when your escape plan doesn't work? Why is this not in here? My bad. It's like, what do you do when what do you do when your escape plans no longer work for the world? I feel like this episode, it was titled Savage, because I feel like when you can no longer run away from your childhood trauma or any type of trauma that has happened to you, what ends up happening is either you become a savage to the world or you become a savage to yourself. And we see that as this episode ended, we see certain characters in this show took one path where one character took another. And so that's why I feel like the plot of this episode was just all about, the plot was all about, what do people do when their back is up against the wall, or when you can no longer run away from those things that are haunting you at night. The themes of this episode is escape plans. I feel like when we first opened up this episode, we saw that Diamond was having sex with Big Bone, so clearly he ended up taking her up on that offer. Angel number 404, and like, as he was having sex with her, he kept seeing Keyshawn, and so we see that though Diamond is trying to, you know, get away from Keyshawn, or he's not really, you know, playing into her, she's still heavily on her mind, and he's clearly seeing her as he's fucking other women. And so from that scene, like, you know, Big Bone end up coming out into, they're at Diamond House, and she sees Diamond altar, and she sees Montavious ring. And so I'm going to bookmark this, because I actually saw this, oh my God, I wish I knew your name. But I was watching it like a review, and this girl, she mentioned it. She's like, I think that Big Bone is connected to Montavious. And I'm like, no, I think it was Whisper. But like, seeing how she looked at Montavious' ring, she really looked like she knew it. She was looking like she knew what the ring was. And so I do feel like she may be connected to Montavious. And so just know, towards the prediction, I have a very big prediction for that. Next, we have Mercedes. Her, her escape plan or her sponsorship has fallen through. Mercedes, her plan for leaving the club is that she was going to work with Coach. Her and Coach had this deal planned out for her to do this sponsorship. And I'm pretty sure she was going to use the money for the sponsorship to help get the gym, up and running and all that good stuff. But because Farrah was being extra thirsty and all up in Mercedes' thing, which I don't know. I'm on the fence of whether I feel like Farrah did this consciously or subconsciously, because it was just like, girl, like, this is not the time to be worried about your marriage problems. Like, I'm here for a job, and like, you just made me lose my bag. And so, because Farrah was being extra thirsty and all over Mercedes, Coach ended up picking up on the fact that Farrah and Mercedes had been together, and he felt betrayed, and so he kicked Mercedes out, and he said he was not giving her this money. And when Mercedes turned to Farrah was like, you just gotta go. And so now Mercedes don't even have a plan, so we have to see what's going to happen with that. Then we had Roulette versus Whisper. They, the paint got shut down again, and so they have decided to work at the Spades tournament. It was so funny when Uncle Clifford was like, make sure I do like a copyright infringement. So like, they're going to bring the paint to the people, and they're working at the Spades tournament. But we see that within that space, I think like maybe Roulette thought that it was just going to be like a fun little thing. But again, because Whisper is white, well, it's racially ambiguous, and how niggas are when they see white girls like that. She ended up, it like some friendly competition ended up happening, and then Roulette ended up getting in her feelings, but she ended up being comforted by Duffy. So that was a cute little storyline. The next theme is the car. We know that the car was a very big deal because that was the next like opening scene. Little Murder gifted Big T this car. Big T is having like this welcome home day with the I forgot what the GFT, I forgot what their gang is called. And so they end up having a beautiful day together. And then first of all, let me just say something. Engineer 728. It's hard as hell to do TV reviews. Like, I respect all my TV reviewers. Like, I really thought that this was going to be easy, and it has been a very humbling experience. So, just forgive me if I'm, like, just rambling. But anyway, so, the car. So, Little Murder ended up giving him this car, and after they have their whole, family gang meetup, Big T was, like, about to drop Little Murder off, and he like, no, I want to, hang out with you. And then they end up going on their first date, which that was pretty cool. Like, they end up going on a date. Big T ended up getting his haircut. Unfortunately, I just don't even understand why he was getting his haircut if he knew what he was about to do. Like, anyways. So he ended up getting his haircut. They ended up going on their first day. They ended up going to the gas station where Little Murder ended up hearing his song on the radio for the first time. And so it was like Big T affirmation that he spoke over him. You're going to be a rich nigga, icy nigga, platinum nigga. It's like starting to come true. And I also feel like that kind of gave Big T some peace, knowing like for real, Little Murder is going to be okay. And then the last theme about this car is Keyshawn. Keyshawn was trying to escape, and Derek, he was going to go see one of his friends or something, which it was just like, nigga, talking about some, do you want to go? You see my fucking face. You see what the fuck you did. Like, whoo, that storyline is just like, I was really over here praying for Keyshawn, and I had to tell myself like, Amber, girl, this is a show. This is a TV show. But then it also made me realize, like, yeah, it may be a TV show, but there are like real women who are like actually going through this. And so then I was like, oh, I'm praying for all the women that are like really going through this. And so Keyshawn, Derek was going out with one of his friends, and so Keyshawn was going to use this as her opportunity to get away from Derek. And come to find out, this motherfucker took the goddamn battery out the car, and so she can't even go nowhere. Stuck. Next, we go into our theme, the final theme, the theme of knocking on doors, aka wake up call. This theme is so important because I feel like it's translating to a bigger theme. So remember, the Winks was very important. Like the winks was like the writers teasing us and playing with us the whole season. Somebody gonna die, and then somebody end up dying. And so then all throughout this episode, it was knocks on the doors, and they made sure to like show the knocks on the door. We first saw the very first knock on the door is Mercedes knocking on Shell's door to go check on Terica and Shell and see how they doing. And honestly, let's just pull over and talk about Shell. Like, bitch, you are barely taking care of yourself. You are drunk half the time, and you still got the nerve to look down at Mercedes. Like, girl, what is, mama? Like, you got your priorities fucked up. Like, you still got the nerve to look down on her. And also, I don't understand Shell's reasoning, because it's like you feel burdened by having this child. You literally just told us how you being dead to a man who was you being faithful to a man who wasn't even faithful to your ass in life. And so it's like, why won't you just let this girl be with her mama? Like, is it a power dynamic or something? Like, what the fuck is that about? Like, woo, I don't like it. I don't fuck with it. I don't fuck with Shell. And I just feel like Mercedes should just be like, I'm taking my goddamn daughter, and I dare you to do something about it, drunk bitch. Anyways. So we go over there, and Mercedes is trying to check up on Shell, and Terica, she ends up bringing them some groceries and stuff. She go look in the refrigerator. It's a molded ass orange. Like, so that means that Shell ain't even cleaning. She ain't cleaning. All this girl doing is drinking all day. Like, she ain't doing shit. And Mercedes like, let me take Terica off your hands. And she's like, no, and I ain't gonna let her go be a hoe. Anyway, so that's that storyline. That was the first knock on the door. The second knock on the door, this whole storyline, Andre is doing his rounds. He's having this black tie event. Oh, backing it up, like at the beginning of the episode, Autumn was getting ready for the event, and so Uncle Clifford and them end up Uncle Clifford and Big L turned the water off on her, and like Uncle Clifford was making fun of her little dress. And so anyways, Autumn end up crashing the party as Lakeisha Savage. And she ended up doing like a little cute little thing where she set up Andre for a win so that Andre could, talk about his platform. Corbin is still being just way too aggressive for me. I'm not feeling his energy. I'm not feeling his attitude at all. So, he's calling her a hoe, all types of stuff, but Lakeisha being Lakeisha, that smart cookie that she is, she waited. She waited until old girl from the promised land showed up, snuck into the all boys room. And so she ended up knocking on the door to the all boys room to give the lady her drink, and that was her entrance into the room. So we know that Autumn is dead set on selling the pink, and the lady wants to sell the pink as well, and they want this casino to come. And so the casino is happening. I don't know how Chuckalisa is going to deal with it. I don't know how the pink is dealing with it, but that is all signs of go. And so to wrap up that whole storyline, Andre and Autumn finally had sex, and it was just like, I'm so fucking over them too. Like, I wasn't even excited. I'm like, Katori, rewind. Like, I'm not even excited. Agent number 1307. But that was that. And then the very last, let me see. Yeah. So then we know I'm not going to say the last knock on the door. Yeah, okay. Second to last knock on the door is, that was how the episode ended. Last knock on the door. I'm sorry, y'all. I am drinking too. Sorry. I'm drinking moonshine. Apple cinnamon moonshine with the half and half. It's so good. Anyways, page number 1842. So, the Mercedes, to end the whole storyline with Mercedes and Terica ends up coming to banging on Mercedes' door. So a full 360 moment. Is it 360? So we started with Mercedes knocking on her door, and then she ended up knocking on Mercedes' door, and then we ended up finding out that Terica is pregnant. Well, Mercedes ain't got no job. The pink is closed now. Like, what the hell is Mercedes gonna do? What is Mercedes gonna do? We gotta figure it out. Next episode. So then the last knock on the door and wrapping up this horrible episode. I'm gonna be honest, y'all. I'm not gonna say horrible episode, but horrible, like not horrible because of visually speaking, but horrible because it just was like fucking me up. Like, as soon as the episode ended, I was like, Angel number 1430, like, maybe I should not have agreed to review these episodes. Like, maybe this wasn't a good idea, because like, this is hard. But anyway, so We know that ending the theme of the car, Big T and Little Murder, they go sit by the water. They're kicking it. They're laughing. They're having a good time. And Little Murder says, you know, tomorrow we get ready to go on a tour. We out of here. You know, we saying goodbye to all this old shit. And Big T says, you got tomorrow. I have tonight. And so it becomes increasingly clear that the reason why Big T was doing all of these things, Angel number 1515, you know, going to get his haircut, having his date, stopping by his childhood home, and let's just go back to that. So we learn that Big T mom had probably a psychotic break, and she killed 3 of his siblings, and the only reason why he got away is because he went to hide in the bag in the closet. And I really feel like, because Katori said this was a real story, so I really feel like the mama was just, it was so much going on. The mama probably ain't even keep track. Like, she was in a psychotic break, so it's like once she ain't making sure it's all 4. She probably just see all the blood, all the screaming, and that was that. And so we learn that Big T has been carrying a lot. You know, Little Murder feels like he owes Big T his life because, you know, Big T saved him. But we come to find out that the reason why Big T saved him is because he saw his mom when he saw the dude standing over Little Murder. He flashed back to that time, and that was his way of standing up for his brothers and sisters. But then think about having all of that trauma, going through all of that, and then you're incarcerated. And instead of giving you counseling, and instead of giving you healing and coping mechanisms, tools to de-escalate, tools to deprogram your mind, you get tossed in a hole in isolation to deal with that shit over and over and over. A lot of us drink, a lot of us smoke because we don't even want to be left with our thoughts. But just imagine if you didn't have a choice. You couldn't get away. You just had to sit your ass there and stay in that fucking trauma. That should make you lose your fucking mind. That's why I think it's inhumane to have isolation, and that's why it has been a lot of work and a lot of studies that's going on around to talk about how 9 times out of 10 when these men go into these isolations, when they go into the pit or whatever the fuck it's called, they don't come out the same. This story is very similar to the Khalifa Bronner. I think that I'm pretty sure that's his name. He, you know, got put to jail, got sentenced to some jail on some dumb shit, racial profiling, end up going through all of this stuff just because he couldn't afford to pay for bail, get out. But guess what? He takes his life because the problem is that even though you're out, then you have to, now you don't even have to just deal with like the trauma of the shit that you deal with. Now you got to go back in the world and you got to deal with the world just moving on without you, and it makes you feel like, and I feel like the reason why Katori did it this way, because you gotta think about it, this was like a perfect storm of chaos. Big T comes out of jail, thrown on the road. First thing he sees is somebody that used to be in his gang, all of a sudden ain't in his gang no more. First trigger. Then he see the George Floyd shit. The second trigger. Third flick, I really feel like the third trigger was seeing that Little Murder moved on. Little Murder has somebody that he's in love with. He really, if your friend or the person, you know, your homie lover friend, if he's no longer an option, you don't have a mama and family to go back to, they are no longer an option. You don't feel like you fit in the world. You see this stuff with police brutality and it feels like the world doesn't want you. I can understand how Big T only conclusion would be, I don't want it. I can't do this anymore. He literally told him, like, I can't see the light. I can't see the fucking light no more. For some people, getting up every day it's hard to deal with this endless cycle, and then you have to deal with all of the negativity in the world. And so just imagine how many people are like Big T, just on the brink of like being like, I'm done. If you think about it, it's literally, I was on my timeline on Friday, and it was like talking about global, it was talking about police, the climate, how India is having all of these record highs, how people are literally dying because of the heat stuff that's happening overseas. And then there was this fucking clip of like these news people just like, oh, don't make it so deadly, y'all. All the meteorites are being so doomist, and it's like, bitch, because it's a fucking crisis. That's why. Like, y'all want to fucking dress up a crisis in a bow. And so it's like we have weather climate, we have weather crisis, food crisis, police and racism crisis. We have mass shooting. It's like, if you were a fucking person that don't have tools, and what would make you, where would you have to like keep wanting to live? Like, what is your incentive to want to live? What would keep you pushing on? And that's why I think she told this story, because it's like, we have to realize, like, and it's not like for us to realize, it's for the powers that be, for media, for the fucking political, like, they look what the fuck you doing. You're making it to where kids and people who have mental, they don't even want to fucking live anymore because of the bullshit that's going on, and because it feels like nobody is actually trying to take fucking control. And so that's how this episode ends. This episode ends with Big T taking his life, Little Murder refusing to leave because he wanted to show Big T that I may not be your blood, but I am your brother, and you're not alone, and you're not even going to be alone in your moment. And honestly, this is what I want to talk to Jay Alphonse about, because there was a moment in that conversation where he went from being like, you got to live, you got life, and then it's like when Big T was like, I don't see the light no more, but I don't see it. And it was like he immediately switched, and it was like all of that selfishness, all of that, trying to encourage him, it went away. And it was like, I'm just going to be here for you. I'm going to support you in this. If this is what you feel like you need to do, then I'm going to be here for you. And like, how do you do that? And like, how is that okay? And like, how did he mentally be able to make that switch to be like, from pleading to being like, okay, well, let me just be here for you. Like, that, woo, motherfucking JL5, that nigga's an actor. He's an actor, baby. Like, I just want to know, like, how did he mentally dissect that in his mind? How do you go from, you gotta live, please stay, fight, there's light, to, okay, I'm gonna be here for you. I'm gonna stay to the end. And so we see this episode ends with Little Murder knocking on Uncle Clifford's door. Ernestine, I ain't even sell that whole story. Ernestine got COVID because toy lying ass. It wasn't fucking allergies. She had COVID, and so now Ernestine is, Lord Jesus, she is really dealing with it, and I just hope and pray that she makes it to the end of this season. But if not, I think that this will allow Uncle Clifford to have some peace in getting rid of the pank. And honestly, I feel like it kind of would be like, you know what, like, I'm doing everything to keep these bitches afloat, and then these bitches kill my grandma, kill my mama. Like, no, fuck these hoes. So like, this may just be the push that he needs. And so my key takeaways from this episode is what I was talking to you guys again about, the effects of COVID, the effects of police brutality, the effects of all of this evilness in the world. And all I can say is just protect yourself, protect your peace. Like, disconnect sometimes. Disconnect from the social media. Disconnect from the news. Like, it's not good to stay in negativity. Us as human beings, we were not built to like take on negativity. And I really feel like this is a time where we really have to develop, tools and practice and like to keep us okay. It's like in the Bible, it says you put on the armor of Christ before you go out into the world. And so You know, they talk a lot about how, you know, millionaires and billionaires do these morning routines, but that's the same vein. You put on your armor. So that's why you have to, you know, do your meditation or do your praying, you know, read your daily Bible scriptures, do your journaling, whatever you need to do so that when you are going out in this world, you're more solid and you're more able to take care of yourself. Also, guys, I am a big component about spirituality, and like, this is vibrational and this is energetic. This is a really good time to invest in some crystals. This is the black tourmaline crystal, and this is an a pyrite. I can't remember the name of this. But this is like a transformation stone. Darker stones are really good for propelling energy, and then getting like rose quartz to kind of like amplify the energy, to bring more loving energy. And then selenite is really good. Like, it's like a clear, like a wand. You can have those. It clears energy. And so if I was you guys, I would go out to the store and I would get me some tourmaline and at least some selenite and probably a rose quartz. These are some good crystals to just keep in your car. Ladies, you can put it in your bra. Men, you could just keep it in your pockets. This is just some good stuff to just keep your energy grounded, keep yourself protected at all times. This pyrite is like more of a, it's like a manifesting like money stone. So this is kind of just if you know, want to be extra, but I would really focus on getting some black tourmaline, making sure you have rose quartz, and maybe some selenite to try to just keep your energy protected, keep negative energies away from you. And then this is also another good time to have like sage. You can do Florida water. Like, say for example, if you work in a public building or in a public area, and that you just kind of nervous, you can just get you some Florida water and put it in like a little spray bottle, and then before you go out, spray it over you. It's like liquid sage. You can spray your cubicles, spray your areas at work, spray your car, so that it's protected. I really feel like this is a time where we have to protect ourselves, mind, body, and soul, spirit. And then the last thing is essential oils. They don't really protect, like they don't repel any energies, but again, it's all about keeping yourself calm. So making sure that you have lavender, peppermint, if you just put like a little bit of lavender here, rub it together, and then just smell it, it'll calm you down. And then you can also do that with peppermint and like a eucalyptus or something, like just just whatever smells that you like, you could start doing those. So I feel like this whole episode is just telling you about like spiritual warfare, and also about like childhood trauma, like what happens when you don't address it and when you don't transmute it. Because the thing that we have to realize is that 9 times out of 10, if you don't address the issues of your childhood, you will more than likely end up living them out in your adult life. And so in order to, and you'll find yourself repeatedly, having those same cycles over and over. So say if you grew up in a household that was, really chaotic and really toxic, you may find yourself in work environments that are chaotic and toxic. You may find yourself in relationships that are chaotic and toxic. It's because that stuff from your childhood, if you don't deal with it, it becomes your energy signature. And so you vibrate and you bring all of those stuff, you bring all those things to you. And so because this stuff is happening to you, you have maybe a limiting belief that I'm not lovable, and I'm not worthy of good things happening to me. And because you have those limiting beliefs, and because those are your energy signature, all these things attract in your life. And so as spiritual beings, the power that we do have, and the power that we have is our mind, is that we can deprogram our mind, and we can deprogram our mind, and we can change our energy signature by transmuting our pain and really working through that. And a good way to work through it is therapy, EFT, getting some energy healing, doing acupuncture, doing yoga, journaling, getting it out. I think the problem is a lot in the Black community, we don't speak. We don't talk about the stuff that's going on, especially childhood trauma, childhood pain, because you don't want to make it feel like, you're talking bad on your parents. So maybe sometimes when you do talk about it, you'll feel like some stuff in your belly. That's because you're feeling self-conscious about it. You're not really in your power. You feel like you're telling on your parents. But we have to get these stories out because it's going to help ultimately heal us. And then ultimately, if we can heal that stuff from our childhood, we can experience a different type of life. And then we can, bring different things into our life, our bloodline, into our family. And so that's why I feel like this episode was so important, because it was just showing you it's like it shows you what happened when you just don't address that pain. It's like a perfect storm. And then I also feel like this is also showing you that monsters, or this narrative that people have on black men, this shit is not, nobody comes out the womb this way. People are formed into bad people, created over bad people. The only difference between a saint and a serial killer is that a saint decided to not, decided to actually work through their shit. But if 9 times out of 10 you hear any of these serial killer stories, I was beat up, I was as a child, it's like, nigga, we all were. And I'm not killing people. So like, that's the only difference, is how you choose to deal with your childhood trauma. And also like taking it back to the plot of this episode, either you're going to become a savage to yourself, or you're going to become a savage to others. And that's why it's so important to heal your childhood traumas. Very last segment, second to last segment. Dear Katori Hall, hey mama, I just want to thank you so much for creating this show. This episode was a 9 out of 10 for me. I love the music of this episode. I love those different cinematic shots. I love like kind of that horror theme element to it when Big T was going up to the door. I actually really love that this was a story that you heard and that you chose to put into this episode. I can't thank you enough. I think that a lot of people, and me included, that we thought that this was just gonna be a fun, cute little stripper episode, stripper show. And like when you said we were going to be addressing COVID, I don't think we were going to be getting as deep as as we have been getting. But you're really showing that COVID is not just affecting our hospitals, our infrastructures, but it's affecting our mental health and our black men as well. And so thank you for all that you're doing, and we look forward to seeing how you're going to wrap up the rest of this episode. My last segment, predictions. Angel number 1150. So the predictions that I have for this is that we had 3 knocks that happened on throughout this episode. The knocks on the door that they made sure that they show. Like I said, I feel like that means that there's going to be a very big wake up call, and I think that wake up call is going to have to do with Autumn and her selling the pink, and so we're going to have to deal with that. Or it's going to be Autumn selling the pink, or Montavious and his friends coming back. Because remember in the last episode, Montavious was like, I get my brothers out here. And so I really do feel like maybe Big Bone is related to them. And like they going to come in and fuck up the pink. Maybe fuck up Diamond. Who knows? I feel like somehow, some way, Keyshawn is going to contact Diamond and reach out to him and ask him for some help. And that's how she's going to be able to finally escape from Derek. And maybe even... Diamond put his ass to sleep. I'm tired of that motherfucker. Anyways, last thing I said, I think that Big Bone is going to call Montavious bros. And then my last thing is, I do feel like Farrah is going to show up for Mercedes, or either Mercedes is going to go back to Farrah, because once she find out the shit with Terica, she's going to be like, look, I need that money. And so I feel like somehow, some way, Mercedes is going to be able to get her money back. Fingers crossed. So those are my predictions. What were your predictions? What were your key takeaways? What are you looking forward to? We have 4 more episodes of this season. Please put it all down below. If this was official podcast, what would you want to have on? What guest, what actor would you bring on the show this week? I want to know. Let's start a dialogue. Until we meet again, dream those dreams. Never let the internet rush you, and never, ever, ever let someone tell you what you cannot do. And to all the YouTube TV reviewers, especially Ashley motherfucking Miller, shout out to you, girl, because this is hard. I don't care what nobody say. This is hard. So thank you for all that you do. Mwah.